Behar. In the Torah, describing Shemitah, seems to tell you that you mechuyev to you plant 6 years. In the seventh year, it's going to be you don't plant and you're not going to cut, and what do you call it? And everybody doesn't work. And everyone's going to eat from the field, right? They can all eat from the field. Now, in reality, what's going to happen, if we look at Parshas in Parshas Shlishi, it says, and what's going to happen, so we didn't plant, we didn't cut. So the Benshos so they're going to eat from the silo. No one's eating from the field, right? From the field. So what are we eating from the field? Obviously the stuff we can't put in the silo, which is the vegetables and stuff like that. Now it's vegetables, fruit, which is you have to eat fresh, and that grows, and therefore it's going to be only what you got in the field. There's not going to be anything from that's stored. Apples maybe you can get away with, but again, I don't know how long they really can stay. But most of the stuff's got to be fresh. But on the other hand, grain is a mile older grain, so there's so that they'll eat the older grain. So that will be that thing. Okay, so that's the nest of not the nest. That's what the Metzias is. Okay. And what says right after that? Right? And you have Shemitah. What will be? And I don't want you to plant, I don't want you to cut, just like I told you on Shemitah. That's not the lotion that's used before. Before it also used a lotion in Asodeh, meaning that we have, obviously I didn't take it into my house, because therefore it is there. But here it says, you're going to eat from the Sodeh. So I want to say there's maybe a difference between Shemitah and Yovel. If you see, we got the din of an Eved Ivri, that you sell yourself for 6 years, and then you go out free, right? If what happened, you don't want to go out free, you become a nirtza, right? You say, I have to, it's Adoni, it's Ovi, it's Ishti, it's Bonai, right? And you become a nirtza. On Yovel, you can't become a nirtza. In other words, or even if you're a nirtza, you must go free. The Rebbeinu Shalom demands that, we didn't have a prison system in the old times, but we had a rehabilitation system. No, it's not a prison system. A guy stole. I don't know what happens if he refuses to steal. It could be they did have jail. The cases we have is with guys chayiv misa a couple of times, whatever he does, there's no edim or nothing, you put him in the burr, you pull away the ladder, you feed him the wrong foods. There are things that there was such a thing of corporal punishment in a sense, not only capital punishment. And besides giving malchus, what do you call? We didn't put him into jail. We sold him as an Eved. And he's an Eved, this is better than the what do you call, what they call the social, not the social, the country club prisons. which you can have even a daf yomi there and everything else, and what is it called there? Here, you have your wife with you. They give you a shiksa even, and that's to show you that you lost a little bit of kedusha soil. It's not a free ride. It's not something that we give you a matone over there because you stole. And it just shows that you lost kedusha soil. A yid is also to marry a shiksa. You can live with a shiksa, okay? Well, not a shiksa. I'm sorry, wrong word. With a shivcha kananis. Okay. But at the end of Shmit by Yevel, you got to stand on your own 2 feet. You lived by your Nodin, who treated you like a king, because he can't make you work like an Eved. He has to make you work only like what he called. If there's only one of any item in the house, you get it. So what kind of Eved are you? You're a boss. That's the Lashon the Gemara uses. Mishakon Eved, if he can other lots, but he has his own boss on top of him. So why would anyone want to do it? So obviously, guy is a good person. He wants to be mekar of somebody who seemed to have been a nice guy. He had Yitzhak for money, and he thinks he can take what God doesn't want to give him. And we got to show him that God takes care of everybody. Baruch Hashem, I'm a former Yid, and I live that way. And he takes care of me, and I have money even to buy an Eved Ivri, and I can pay back his debt, and you'll see that it pays to do that, and it pays to be a Fumiyid. And you can hide behind this for 49 years. At the 50th year, you got to stand on your own 2 feet. You got to go out, and I got to show the world that I learned. I got to rehabilitate it. I know what it is to become a Maimin Hashem. The same thing belibes maybe in this thing. All the times I'm giving a bracha, mitzivisi b'chosi, that's for 3 years. And you have in the silos. But on Yovel, I'm not guaranteeing you anything. It's what's in the field. That's it. I don't see it's enough. Everybody's going to eat this. And it's going to be enough. And it's going to be fine. I have to live on my own now. And maybe that's what Beishim demands. Once in 50 years, we have to grow up. We have to actually live according to the way the Torah wants us to live. Okay. Now it tells you, I don't know the halachas what would be in this. You want to sell a field to somebody, right? So I can't sell you, what's called a sale? The sale is that I figure out how many crops are going to be, how many years are left to Yovel, and I charge you X amount of dollars per crop, which is a fair price, whatever it is there, and that's it. So what is the lesson to that? It's not a sale, it's a rental. It's a lease, if you want to call it, the best that you call it. It's not why do you call it a sale for? The Torah is telling me, for you the Yid that lives in my land, that's for you a sale. You don't have, your sales are leases only. Okay. That's all you have. You don't own more than that. And you can give up your field, and that's what you can charge for. The shaila is, Yovel is not a guarantee. Yovel, Shemitah is a guarantee. Yovel is not a guarantee. What's the cheshbon? Yovel has to have 3 tanoim. You have to have freedom of slaves. You have to have nachla coming back, and you have to have that money is forgiven. In other words, so you have to have all those 3 things. If you don't have all 3 things, what do you mean we don't have the 3 things? Of course you'd have all 3 things. I mean, money is for sure, and Yeva, what do you call it? Avodim, again, but we don't have avodim. We're all liberals now. We give our own liberals. No avodim to get to free. So, Eino Chinami, maybe there won't be Yovel talking. Right? So, is there a sale then? What happens? I sold it to you 20 years with the cheshbon, 20 years to Yovel. I charge you for 20 years worth of crops. But now it's going to be 70 years to Yovel. Or is it going to be another 50 years? before we got a Yevil. So what do we do then? Do I get that for the same 20-year profit thing or not? I don't know the din on that. I can't answer you. I don't know the din. Maybe a push it is achad, but I don't know it. Okay. Yeah. Okay, and then Shiva asked the question. He says, right? So it says, so he says, what happens if we don't ask? I mean, it's a kasha, it's obvious, and I'm sure there's different answers in different places. But what Shiva's answer was a very interesting one. You won't get it. What does it mean you won't get it? It means you actually, the stuff that you got from the field will be sufficient. It won't run out. I'll give you a mushal on that. Would be, let's say, people who don't drink instant coffee. Right? So what, they have a jar of instant coffee in the house? They have it, they come home and they're so hungry for coffee, they got to have instant coffee at least. Okay, good. Right? So that half a jar of instant coffee is there for the last 4 years. And it doesn't seem that it ever get used up. Right? Yet I know that people do drink a cup of coffee so once in a while. Right? So you see that it just never get ended, never ends. It's always there. It's the same thing. That's the same thing, That's called the bracha v'asamecha. We'll talk about it maybe more in Kesai. There's the inyan of v'asamecha, that the Bein Shem sometimes wants to give you bracha, but if you know it's a bracha, then it's a nes. And that's a nes you can't pray for. And it takes away from schar. So it's got to be something that you accept as normal, not to take away from nisim. What are you talking about? How is that possible? I'll give you a mushal. A guy bought a new car. It's at 26 miles to the gallon, right? I'm going to go check this. It's 26 miles to the gallon. And I get 26 miles to the gallon. But you're not going to get anything more than that. Of course, it's 26 miles to the gallon. What happens though, when you own the car already a few years, you notice that when you're in the city, it's only getting like 10 miles to the gallon. When you're on the highway, it's getting 50 miles to the gallon. When you call it's an average of 20, whatever the thing does in there. I go on the highway on this thing, and I find I'm getting 60 miles to the gallon. How do you know you're getting 60 miles to the gallon? That's not basamecha. You know you're getting it. No, I don't. What I mean is, did I fill up this week? I don't remember filling up this week. And I still got a half tank. I went to the yeshiva every day. I went to work every day, and it should be used up. And I don't remember getting it. Maybe I did get it. I don't remember. That's asamecha. You get it, what do you call it? And that thing, and that's the same thing. We'll talk about that later. Okay. Okay. The question is, if we have this bracha, this guarantee, why do we make collections before Shemitah year? They are good. They made a big collection and the thing there, and they have that more guys, and we have books full of nisim that happened to the Shemim Shemitah, and they don't happen to the regular guy. So why is that a raya that you can trust God? So I was thinking about it. You say scholars, there's no guarantee. Could be. But you see, Bein Shem wants us to keep the mitzvah, because that's why he does these mitzvahs, to show us that, these nisim, that he's to show us that he wants Shemitah kept, and so on. So how come they're not supported? So I thought about it and something like this. Once upon a time, we were an agricultural society And if you didn't plant and eat, we didn't have the farmers weren't working, there was no food, period. Baruch Hashem, now, nobody makes his money from being a farmer, except the farmer. I'm a computer operator, I'm a programmer, I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer, I'm a this, I'm a that. And I make my money different ways. And how do I feel this inyan of participation in the inyan of Shemitah? Now the thing is at the point, so just like we expect the farmer to give up something, we expect everybody to participate in this, that they should give up something. Now, are they really giving up? Or was against V'tzivasi Ifilchosi? I gave them more money to be able to give the farmer. That's why they had more money this year, or last year, or they say they shall have Shviyas, whatever it is, Shishis. Therefore, that's my obligation. So it's a way of us participating in the mitzvah, and also the fact that the pshat is that we are like them. The whole country is involved in Shemitah. It's not just a few guys that are involved in Shemitah. And I think that would be the union of it. Okay. Now it says that then if you sold the field, so there's a din that 2 years you can't redeem it, and after that you can always redeem it, and there's a chiyuv on the goyal to redeem it. Who gets the field if the goyal redeems it? The goyal gets it, or the guy or the original guy who owned it. So Parshas, if you're telling me that's a chiyuv on the goyal to help out the regular guy, you would think that then it should go back to the owner, to the original owner. And so first of all, it's not mashma that way, and especially not from the Haftarah, from Boyaz and stuff like that, from Rus, rather that she marries and he has to marry her to get the field, or whatever like this, he wouldn't have gotten the field. But it would have been by him. It would have been by him. So if that's the case, so what does he gain, the guy? So mashma it's a din de mishpoche, that the field, we're not supposed to let a nachli go away to somebody else. Even though there are ways that it does go away, he goes to the kehanim, he goes to something like that, but it's not. The land belongs to the Rebbeinu Shalom. He wants us to have it. What do you go? Now you got to think about it. When they came to Eretz Yisrael, each guy got a piece of land, say 100 acres. I'm just picking a number. The guy has 10 kids, so each kid's going to yashin 10 acres. Okay. Each one of those 10 guys are going to have 10 kids, so now each one's going to get 1/10 of an acre. I mean, how are we going to live on this? This way it's going to go forever and ever. He didn't give a new chalukah. The chalukah keeps coming back to this group or this family every 50 years. Whatever is left of it that they get there, there's very little to it. Or maybe they kept it as a big thing. I don't know. I would assume that what they did was they lived in like a hotel unit. That when a guy got married in the family, they built it on one room onto the big ranch house, and now you got a room for the new couple. All right, where do they eat? In the main dining room. Where did they sit around and browse? In the lobby. It was like a hotel. They didn't have no one had a whole house for himself. That house for himself, there'd be no land to plant or anything else. They have nothing left. So obviously they had nothing, and it just was this little bit that they have. So that society made it possible for us to marry. Like the Gemara Yevamah says, the best to marry is a 12-year-old and a 13-year-old. A 12-year-old girl, 13-year-old boy, when they just became gedolim, they should get married. And stuff like that. That way they'd never do Averos, never do what he called. And the explanation of that is also very simple. A person eats 3 times a day, but he always eats when he's not hungry. He doesn't eat when he's hungry. He eats before he's hungry. Right? Now, could be he's hungrier than he would have been if he ate, let's say, a half hour earlier, or it happened to be today, he did some exercise, he got hungrier, but he's not hungry. If the time is you're hungry, you're not hungry. The same thing for a guy who's married young, and whenever he had a Yetzer Hara, or she has a Yetzer Hara, you lived with each other. It never got to the point of having a Yetzer Hara that I can't control. It wasn't a Yetzer Hara. It was, I'm hungry, so I go and eat. And that's what is there. That's why there never would have been a chet. Because I'd only bother thinking. If I waited till I'm 20, 25, all of a sudden I start thinking about things I shouldn't be thinking about. And all of a sudden then, and now you're going to get me married, I still think about the things I shouldn't have thinking about. I mean, because once I was hungry for it, I'm still hungry for it. But if I never would have been hungry, I never would have understood that there's such a thing as being given by the Yetzer Hara. That's what I think it means. Okay. Okay. And the Chayma guided is an thing that you could actually sell in time, and it goes to the Kohen, or it belongs to the guy who buys it forever. And that's where they don't redeem it and so on. Okay? It's, and that's where we learn out the union of Bati or Chayma, the Gabi, in Torah, so nearly Baboyis, what do you call it, that if it was able to happen, who's the owner of the original money? Now, well, you could, because it could be I bought it already from someone who bought it from someone who bought it from someone, and we have to go back to the original guy or not, and that's the right. If you don't know, if you had something or you possessed something, you never knew you possessed it, it's not yours. Okay. Yeah. Okay. And the ikar is that we can't be avodim. You know, you can't be avodim lavodai. A Jew can't be an eved. And I just didn't have it Ivri, and this didn't have 6 years, and all those things. It's true, but I can't make you feel like an eved. So therefore, even when I do that, I can't do that. While if I hire you to do a job, I can give you the most dirtiest job and the filthiest job and the hardest job. As long as you're doing it willingly and you're able to pay, you want to do it, you charge me for it, fine, no problem. But if you have to do it, you're not an eved. You can't be an eved. That's the union of contracts and stuff like that. And that if I have to work, so my little contract is, even though a contract is like, I'm mechuyev to work for you, I have a 5-year contract, I have to work for you. No, I can quit the contract. I have to have penalties maybe, but I can still quit. That's not called, I can't quit. I'm not an eved. I can quit. But I have to, but the penalties there are. The reason there are penalties is very simple. Because even though that a poel yochel achzor b'emtza hayom, it's have to make penalties on them, because the truth is I got to get new workers, and I can't get new workers now. So I'm going to lose my field because of that. And you guys cost me a big hezek. So of course I can do things to try and keep you into the business, right? What's called being an eved, that's a question. A contract that you can't break, that would be like an eved. There's something I'm stuck doing this. And so, a Jew is not stuck doing anything. No such thing. Okay. And that's the main idea that is trying to teach us. The land belongs to God, the people belong to God, and there's no such thing as ownership by us. Obviously, we use the term "I own it," but it's only a terminology. But it's not really ownership, like the way we understand in Chutz La'aretz. In Chutz La'aretz, I own a piece of land. I know what I own. It's a thing there. There's no redemption. There's no what he called. There's the thing. It's my piece of land. I do with it what I want. And then, as you saw, it doesn't work that way. Okay. Gade de Haftere, I had a shaila, if Hanamel, this the Yirmiyah bought the field. At the end of the Golus, 70 years later, that's because he made a shtar, Yamdu Rabim, because the Churban is coming. So how do we keep it? He put it in this, what do you call it, a sealed clay cheres, which became really a vacuum, and therefore it didn't eat away at the paper. So Yam Rabim. And then we'll have a proof who owns the land. Is it your land? So we know a klal that Be'er Shayna was kitchel l'shayter like kitchel l'asad lavai. It was only until the Churban. At time it's not till the Churban, it was until Gedalia was killed. Why? Because the Gemara, and then one second, in Parshas Dvorim, it tells you that, or we'll see it in fashion, that I promised the land to somebody, they got the land, now they can lose it, and they can lose it. You got the land, they don't have to give it to you forever. It's not yours forever. We know this by Moav was Tia B'Sichon. We were allowed to take the land after we killed Sichon because he sold for Moav first. So therefore, Moav's ownership went away by the fact that it was taken away from him. Okay? So what makes it taken away from us? Right? So I think, and this is the way I believe, why is it such a big kindness to Gedalia? Kindness, same Gedalia. Why did you make it time? There's a lot of Jews were killed. A lot of kings were killed. You don't have a fast day for them. Why did they make for Gedalia? So I think the reason is because the way it says here, they all ran away. When everybody left Eretz Yisrael, no Jew was there. No Jew was there. The land is taken over by the enemy. They own the land now, completely. It's gone. I gave it to you, yeah, but it's gone. Once you left, it's gone. So what happened now? But Kedusha Shniya, it's Kedusha the Shaita, Kedusha l'asad lavai. This is what we came up with from Matana, really, Kairish, and they said the Yerei wants to go up, will go up, and the Yavish, and all those guys, we were living under Goy. We only had to have the Goyish Rishus to get there. How does that become all of a sudden ours? So you got to say that that's the reason that Eretz Yisrael doesn't produce for any other nation. Eretz Yisrael was desert until they started the Zionists started to plant and stuff, and the kibbutzim and all that type of stuff. And when it came under Jewish ownership, then it became to blossom. The desert blossomed. Before then, it didn't blossom because it doesn't produce for Goyim. The Goyim didn't own it. The slogan of the Zionist slogan was a land without a country, without a people, for a people without a land. So in other words, nobody was living in Eretz Yisrael. In fact, there's all this history with it's Negei Nas now with what's going on in Eretz Yisrael, There's no such thing as Palestinians, that we've already heard. And the thing there, that's true, there was no such thing. The guys that are Palestinians now are Bosnians. They were brought in by the Turkish government, who went with the Axis in the First World War. He was on the side of the Germans, and they lost the war. But they were on there. They knew there was an empty land and they could be invaded by England, so they brought in people from Bosnia, that they're all Arabs in Bosnia, and they populated Eretz Yisrael. That was also under the Turkish government at that time. And therefore Czechoslovakia there was under Turkish government, yeah. So it all came in, that's how so there was no such people. Why are we having such a hard time with them? That's a Zoya. It has nothing to do with this. It says, the Zoya brings down, it's in Parshas, it's supposed to be in Parshas Vo'ero, but in most places it's brought down in Parshas Vayero. I guess it could be individual sets, I don't know. I didn't see that many sets of Zoya, but the one I saw was that way. That the din is that Rabbi Akiva says the worst words said in the world was Lu Yishmoel Yichya Lefanecha. That Avram gave this, I want Yishmoel. Okay? What did God give Yishmael? Didn't give him anything. So he brings down the Zoya that for 400 years, the Malach of Yishmael kept begging Hashem that they, for a piece of land. What's the cheshbon 400 years? I don't know. I'm just thinking my own mind. Esav tried to get out of having to go to Mitzrayim. So he left Ya'akov in Eretz Yisrael, and he went to Har Seir, which was also part of his thing, which is the Chivi land, and he went there. But in reality, he should have been going to Eved Mitzrayim also, because Zaracho, your children, will be slaves for 400 years, includes Yaakov and Esav. It doesn't want only for Yaakov. Esav didn't want to go, so he says, you can have it. So the little bits of land that was Esav's, which is Shem and what do you call it, the Givonim, and those cities, which were the Chivi cities, they became now the seventh nation, because the Chivi is not even mentioned in the Bris Ben Absorim. The Kadmoni, Keni Knizi Kadmoni is mentioned. That means they first have to go to Esav and then we'll get it. Los Lavai. How do we get it right away when we're not in Mitzrayim? There's no Chivi mentioned there. The Chivi is only his. The pshat is because I'm not taking it. I don't want to go to Mitzrayim. Shmuel was tying to the Banish on his Malach that he's the son of Avram. He also has to go to Golus. He wants to go to Golus. He wants to get the land. He has to get land, because that's what you get when you get the land. First you're going to go 400 years in Golus, then you'll get the land. So he says to him, so I want to go to Golus. And the Benishim didn't want to give him the land. In the end it says, what did the Benishim give him? He gave him the land when we're not there. And that's why it's hard for us to get it back, because they're there. That's the point. It's not theirs. It's ours, because it's time to come home. We're coming home. That's the thing there. It's no more theirs. But l'maaseh, they don't want to give it up. That's our problems. Okay. So really, Yirmiyah lost the land because it was taken over by Nebuchadnezzar. So what if in the Meki Puzishtar that I bought it from you? The Kasdoyim own the land now. It doesn't belong to me, it doesn't belong to you. It's Kitchel Shaitel, Kitchel Asadlovai. But he wants to teach the people there's a hope. We're coming back. That's what he taught them. We're coming back. And at that time, God, when Gedalia was still alive, so obviously at that time that whole point didn't exist yet. So therefore, for sure, we're coming back as far as the thing is. But after that, Gedalia was killed. So then is when we gaze at that we're not coming back. It's not ours anymore. Okay. In Bechukosai telechu v'smitzvosai tishvu v'asisem oisam. There's a Rashi here. It's a very shver Rashi, as far as I'm concerned. In Bechukosai, I learned in this Chumash. Okay, this Chumash is printed by the what they called the Hebrew Publishing Company. Okay, there's a few guys, Zakheim, there's other guys, there's Israelis. They copied over their stuff, but they're the ones that owned it. They made it, what he called. There's a Rashi that says here like this: Yochol zekim ha-mitzvahs. You would think that in Bechukosai telechu, if you go my ways, means you're doing the mitzvahs. Ki shuai me'aves mitzvosai tishmeru. When it says in the next part, it's continuing, it's mitzvosai tishmeru, that is Harei ki mitzvahs omer. It says already doing the mitzvahs, right? El what I mean mekayim Bechukosai telechu means that a meidlim b'Torah. First of all, if you went what you're saying, so why did it stop over there? Why didn't it just say this mitzvosai tishmu v'asisem oisam? It's in the ferish asisem oisam in the day. Why you go to tishmu? Tishmu is the wrong words. Because if you look in Eschanun and the A, it says meferish tishmu means to learn, and asisem is kimashmoi. So it doesn't see the tishmu doesn't mean to do; it means to learn. So why are you saying it's mitzvahs are written already? That I did the mitzvahs, I didn't do the mitzvahs. And some Chumoshim, the fancy Chumoshim, put in v'chulu in the middle. Instead of saying this, it says, right? Hey, you can't write the right words. What is v'chulu for? Because you're trying to avoid this kasha, but the answer is the kasha. Rashi didn't have the word v'chulu. It's not the v'chulu that goes on. Could have written v'asisem oisam a lot easier than the Shmo. Well, Rashi is telling you a big chiddush here. When the same thing applies, does not mean doing mitzvahs. It means learning how to do mitzvahs. But if I learn how to do mitzvahs and I don't have to do them, I learn them a lot differently than I have to know exactly what to do. That's the difference. But it means to learn the thing. Why is the purpose of that? That you should learn like that. Because then it becomes part of you. If otherwise it's just to say, I once asked the girl this question. A girl who learned Torah for 2 years before it became a girl. When it was in yeshiva in Eretz Yisrael, learned Gemara and everything else there. How they worked it, I don't answer. And how he got into it, that's not my kasha. But he was in yeshiva in Eretz Yisrael. Came here once for Rosh Hashanah. He was an emissary girl. Mamish a noiski hitting a guy, he's in chinuch in there. And he asked him, you learned Torah as a ger, and you learned as a goy, and you learned Torah as a yid. What's the difference? The Gemara says, the guy says Torah by goyim al tamin. Not true. You're a goy, you get Torah. So what do you mean it's not true? He said, the difference is, he says, I know a lot of religions. Shintoism, he started giving me a bunch of names of religions. And I know them all. He says, but till then, it was a seichel. I knew Judaism also. Then I became a ger by these words you live. It wasn't anymore just the knowledge. It was by these words you live. It's a different idea, different way. That's what the Torah wants from us. By these words you live. It's not enough, not an idea. That's what it means, that you should know vasisem oisam, you should do it. Oh, but I don't have to do it. The idea is to learn it that way. So if a guy is a Shemesh Shabbos, you say he's only a Shemesh Shabbos on Shabbos, or is a Shemesh Shabbos on Friday, or on Sunday? He's still a Shemesh Shabbos, because he is a Shemesh Shabbos. Not as he doesn't work on Shabbos. When Shabbos comes down, he doesn't work. That's not a Shemesh Shabbos. A guy is B'etzem, a Shemesh Shabbos. That's what he is there. And that's what that he's trying to teach you. And Bechukosai Telechu, the Ikar Zach I want you to know is this Mitzvah Tishbu. Learn my mitzvahs. Learn how to do it. Become different. Become a different person. Because you know my mitzvahs. That you can do. And that only happens if you learn it Vasisa. But that wasn't necessary because I'm not interested in you doing the mitzvahs. So what's the point of doing the mitzvahs then? Let's just learn the mitzvahs, tell you that way, and then do whatever we want. Okay, so I don't know if it would change if we leave doing the other thing there. It's a different shaila. But I think the simple thing is, how do you know you learned right? Let's see you do the mitzvah. What do you do? If you do what you're supposed to do, you learned well. You didn't do what you're supposed to do, you didn't learn well. So it's a test, like. Okay. Anyway, the Torah is telling me the brachas, if I do, the starts with the brachas. Weiß I say the peer, Histikluchem Dais is Botzir, Botzi Yassi Gezora, Vachal Tablachman Loseva, Vishaft Levech. Rashi says, what does these things mean? You're going to have Histikluchem Dais is Botzir, Sheheya Daish Meruba, you're going to have so much Daish, Vatem Asukim Boy, Ada Botzir. You're going to be working on the Daish, that's the grain, until you're going to have to get to the grapes. And you'll keep working on that until you have to plant. No, this is a crazy thing. And this is bracha, right? This is what you're telling me. You're going to have so much stuff, it'll be bracha. I don't know. When I was watching people, when I was growing up, I watched The Accountant. He came around probably the end of the year, towards after the 15th of April, they were crazy. They were working 24 hours a day. Afterward, they had nothing what to do. They were free. What do you call it? The farmer. He works the summer like a feld. And then he sleeps all winter. Got nothing to do. There's a thing over there. You got to keep them interested in stuff. And stuff like that. The guys who make summer clothes make them in the winter time, and then summer they're off. And it's the winter people do the other way. They make it in the summertime, and then they're off in the winter, because that's when they have to have the stuff. And there's anything there, but if you work 12 months a year all the time, you go crazy. So what kind of bracha is it? I give you so much. He said, no. What's the problem with why you work hard in certain times and you don't work hard the other times? Because there's no work the other times. So you have to, in order to have money, you have to work hard this time, right? What happens if I'm telling you you're going to work, have money, you're going to be able to work a whole year? So instead of working 16 hours a day, I'll tell you you'll work 8 hours a day. But you have to work a year for 8 hours a day. You'll say, okay, that's a lot easier, right? So if all of a sudden the rain doesn't spoil the food, why do you grab all the stuff off? We've got to get off the field fast because it's going to rain and it's going to spoil it. So if it's not going to spoil, it's not going to rain. You got time, you can leave it there. The stuff is going to be there till you die, until Butzer, until everything, till you get there. It's all going to be taken care of. You don't have to worry about it. If that's the case, so I'll put in 2 hours of work a day. The rest I'll go to the basement the rest of the time. What do you call it? I'll steig and whatever it is. And that's what my life. So I'm able to put order into my life, seder into my life, that I'm able to learn every single day for many hours and still make a parnasa. And instead of being all bunched up in one time and working like a fella, and the other time you're doing nothing. What do you gain by this? So I tell you, what you gain is a very interesting thing. Let's get you one weiter, okay? I'll give a shaft and then, okay. Then it tells you all the things there, okay? Then, by Shlishi, it says, V'achaltem yoshen noishen, you will eat 2-year-old grain, which v'yoshem mipnei chodesh teitziu, and you'll take out old grain, 1-year-old, because of chodesh. Now, I don't understand this. We're going to eat 2-year-old, right? If I'm going to eat 2-year-old grain, that means the 1-year-old grain can still stay there for another year, because till I'm ready to eat it. And the chodesh is in. So what are you telling me to do? I want you to go take out the 1-year-old grain and put in the new grain in there. And what am I going to do with the old grain? You got to build a warehouse. So isn't it easier to build a warehouse and put the new stuff in, and instead of pulling out the old stuff and putting it into the new house that you built for the doesn't make sense. So it's like you're playing. What do they call it? The seats. I forgot what they call it.
Musical chairs.
Huh?
Musical chairs.
Musical chairs, right? That's what it seems you're doing. You're crazy. Why would you do such a thing, right? And what kind of bracha is that? So I claim, no, what the Reuven is telling you is this what you do. You're going to eat yoshen noishen. You're eating 2-year-old stuff. But you know, it's all with you know, the American dream is a very wonderful thing, right? I want a house, and I want a car, and I want a cleaning lady, and this thing. But you know who else? The cleaning lady also wants that. So how does the cleaning lady get that? It's an American dream, it's for everybody, right? So she's going to charge $1,000 an hour for work. So what am I going to charge now? And think there. Okay. And what's the builder of the house going to charge? So it's never going to happen. And this is the Gemara in Parshas says it. They came to David HaMelech, and they said to him, Amchem tzichem parnasa. People need money. And he says, well, no problem. Go do business one with the other. He says, Ein haberm mismal mechulyav. You can't fill up the hole that you dug out with the sand that you got from that hole. It always is less than that. So therefore, everybody to have what everybody else is going to have is not possible unless you get money from the outside. And his answer was Gedud. That's what we call exports, right? We export things. We have, we think, okay. What do we have to export that's going to bring us in money that we're all going to be rich from? Yoshan. Regular countries eat the grain they got that year, right? Yoshan is a specialty. It's a year old. It's drier out. Whatever it is, gives a better flour. I don't know exactly what the difference of Yoshan is to what he called, but it's supposed to be better, right? And Yoshan Noishan is even better than that, right? But I don't think it gets better than Yoshan Noishan. So therefore, and once you get to 2 years, that's maximum. That's for you to eat. That's Yidl. All the Yoshan, the extra stuff goes out, you sell it in the world. So you're going to take out that stuff from the silos and sell it. Now you're going to have place for the new stuff until it gets old. Because you don't need it. You're not going to eat up all the old. You only eat a little bit of the old. The rest you're going to ship out. So that's where the bracha comes in. That the Rosh is going to give us. Okay. Then he tells us, then that's the bracha. After that comes the klala. Okay. And it gives, you'll plant, you'll do a lot of things you won't have. And animals that come for you. All of these things, terrible things, right? But I also want to tiny that maybe here's a lotion. B'shivri lochem mate lechem v'ofu eser noshem lachem matana echad. 10 women will bake in one oven. They shivu lachem mishkol. Get the one with a weight. V'achaltem, you'll eat v'loises bowl. So it could be because of scarcity. why do all the women baking one tunnel? You guys ever eat a big challah? You know, those party challahs, whatever you call it. You eat them, they taste very good. You see, they cut it up and they give little pieces to all the tables. Why? Because everybody wants a piece of that challah. We each got a roll. The roll don't taste the same like that challah. Because the more dough, the more full the oven is, the better the dough tastes, the bread tastes. So if you're going to build little rolls, you got to build a whole oven worth of them. So we're going to do the same thing, either because we don't have enough wood for others, or simply we want to get that taste of what he called. So therefore, we're all going to build one. But we didn't have that much. That's one way of learning pshat. Maybe there's enough, right? But I want to tie in it. There could be a klola in diseases that it's going to come on diseases that these things could be. I'll give you a marshal diabetes for this one. He eats bread, it's poison for him. He can't eat bread because that puts sugar into his blood. He said before you had insulin and all that kind of stuff, you don't eat any bread, spaghetti. Those are the worst things to eat for them, right? So therefore, you're going to eat. And that's what was the signs of a diabetic? The signs of a diabetic is you eat, and you're hungry, and you go to the bathroom often. Why? Because it's not absorbed by the blood, so it has to go out the normal way. You go out, so you have to go to the bathroom, but you're not full either because the blood didn't get the sugar from the body, from the food you ate. So therefore, you're hungry still. So you never got full. So that itself is a clue of that thing. So now with the clue, besides having the disease, sometimes you say, what's the big deal with disease? You know, I feel fine, there's nothing wrong with it. No, there's plenty wrong with it. You're hungry and you're not full. You're always going to be hungry. And you always have that feeling, you have plenty of money, you have plenty of food, but it doesn't do the job. Okay, then again, I don't believe they talk about that they murdered their kids, because that's a big aveira, right? That I have to kill my kid to eat his flesh, and I don't think people did that, or you couldn't bring yourself to do it, whatever it is. But once they're dead, I'm hungry. You can eat it. Now, okay, we learned the einish of Shemitah, not keeping Shemitah, is golus. Okay. Now, something I think I mentioned before, but again, maybe I did when it was last year. Okay. V'anishorim b'chem ve'ivesi moichach b'lvavam be'artzis ayevehem. They'll bring a fear into their hearts. They're going to hear the leaves wave. They're going to run. It's dangerous. It's out there. And they're going to think people are chasing them, and no one's chasing them. That fear is only in Golus. Now it's just so you don't have that fear. And it's something that I think that's the reason that the Israelis cannot understand the what do you call it, the Holocaust, because they can't understand why didn't you just charge the guy and kill him? How come you let the guy put all in a gas chamber? I mean, you just should have changed him and killed him. They couldn't understand the panic of fear from a goy. And Baruch Hashem else so we don't have it. And not only don't they have it militarily or whatever it is there, the simple fears of going into the Arab section and stuff like that, unless I have seichel over here that tells me you don't go there because someone just got killed over there, so you're going to go there. And chas v'chol, you can get killed. And that's why you have to, but it's a seichel fear. It's not a fear of the heart's beating. I can't go, I'm afraid. You're not afraid. That's the problem. It's a mile and a bracha, but it's not. It's only in Golos, not in Eretz Yisrael. In both teichos it says it that way. Okay, and then the Ben Shem tells us that I'm not going to destroy you. That's the ikon. I'm not going to destroy you. There's always going to be a little bit of us left to rebuild. Always. And Baruch Hashem, we're doing a good job now. Should continue and build. It's not enough. But we see this bracha that we're going down, 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 and all of a sudden we're up, 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 and all the conservative reform, they're gone. Conservative is gone because it's gone. And reform is gone because it's goyim. Nothing left for these guys. And you think a lot of they're selling, they're becoming Orthodox again, and whatever it is there. And the Tamadov is because the people see that it's not emes and whatever it is. We have a renewal. And it's getting stronger and stronger. Okay. Okay, finished the Teichecha. And he says he goes into Erchen. And the kasha over there is, and the Gemara brings a raya, that a woman between the over 60, so a man is worth 15 shkolim, that would have to give his Ercha, and a woman 10. So a woman is less than a man, by a third. I thought he call it a half if you want. 5 off. Okay. But in the proportion from the highest number, that was from 20 to 60, where a man is worth 50 and the cave is worth 30, is it and Shish Mishon of Omar, I'm looking for the eager one. Oh, it says over here before. Chamishim shekel, man and a woman is 30. So if you deduct it, it's already a lot more. So 50 becomes 15, 30 becomes 10. So here it's only a third off, and here it's more than a third off. So the Lashon is that that's what people say, that a woman in her old age is worth a lot and a man is worth nothing. I don't understand. They're still worth less. So why would the people say that? But the idea is, in the proportion, you're looking at the person as his value in himself became less. One has a big drop, and a big drop, it's Eva bottle already. The other one doesn't have such a big drop, so we're saying, there's this use there, even though the value is still, one is more than the other one. But Lamaise, the attitude of people towards it is and that's a false thing. Okay. You have just listing. I'll say just Maisa Behem. It says you're not allowed. The 10th one is Maisa, God's. You can't change it. You can't exchange it. You can't first make sure which one goes out first. You have to. When one goes out the 10th, that's the one. So Shiva asks, isn't that a Kal B'chema? If I can't make sure which one goes out first, so I surely can't exchange it. Right? I don't have to tell you the thing is push it like that. Right? He's telling you that there's no retirement for the job. You got to keep doing the job always. There's no retirement. When you get old, you need help to have somebody. You can get someone to help you, but I can't exchange him, and I can't decide which of my kids is going to be the Talmud Chacham. It doesn't work out that way always. Sometimes it comes out that the one I thought is going to be the businessman, he becomes the Talmud Chacham. The Talmud Chacham becomes a businessman. You can't make any of those choices. That you can't pick him. And once you pick him, once he is, then he's forever. You can't exchange him. He's what he called. I can say he needs help, that I can do, but I can't exchange him. You're not fired because you're older than him. Okay, I'm putting Shabbos to this.